The third and final set in Magic the Gathering's Odyssey block, Judgment, came to market on May 27, 2002. Featuring a set symbol that represents the scales of justice, it came with 141 new cards, 2 reprints, and the completion of the Mirari story that began in Odyssey. Though the story of the barbarian Kamal will only be halfway finished when all is said and done. The conclusion to the Odyssey cycle can be experienced by reading Will McDermott's novel, Judgment. Failing that, here is a brief summary of the events found in the novel.
So pay attention.
The barbarian Kamal, having promised his fallen friend Chainer to protect the powerful artifact Mirari from misuses, affixes the orb to the pommel of his sword and heads out of Kamal City. Almost immediately, Kamal realizes what sort of challenge protecting the artifact will be, as its allure causes the barbarian to be attacked numerous times by those trying to steal the Mirari from him as he ventures home to the Partick Mountains. Meanwhile, in the Mir Empire, a down but not out Laquadus decides to try yet again to win the throne of the Undersea Realm. He reaches out to both the Order and the Cabal, seeking to start diplomatic relations that will ultimately lead to their support of his desires. He proves to be a tad late, however, as the Mir Empress, Lawan, has beaten him to it. Frustrated, the merfolk departs for the mainland, once again seeks the Mirari to achieve his goal. Back in the Partick Mountains, Kamal feels like he's finally somewhere safe. The Mirari, however, shows him that numerous foes are already on their way to challenge him for the artifact. It convinces him to call together the mountain's various barbarian tribes to his defense, despite the misgivings of his sister, Jessica, and mentor, Balthor. To find the most worthy defender, Kamal sets up a Cabal-like tournament with the champion of each of the mountain's 8 tribes in attendance. The tournament's winner will be crowned the leader of the collective tribes. In the tournament, Kamal shows excessive strength and a lack of restraint. Not even Balthor and Jessica are able to subdue the raging barbarian, the Mirari's corruptive nature beginning to take hold of him. Kamal easily overwhelms each opponent, and the barbarian heralds himself as the tournament's champion and, thusly, the one who will be in charge. The others, however, refuse his rule on the grounds that he has gone mad with power. The barbarian tribes plunge into civil war. Meanwhile, a contingent of Order soldiers led by Commander Isha and a Cabal battalion led by Braids each make their way towards the Partick Mountains, the 2 groups each feeling the call of the Mirari. Laquadus too is on the move and attempts to befriend both sides with aspirations of playing them against one another. Back in Kamal's village, the barbarian prepares to fight the dissenters. His sister, Jessica, knows that her brother needs to be stopped by any means necessary. The dwarf Balthor agrees and suggests that they steal the Mirari, thus taking away Kamal's corruptive influencer. Jessica agrees to do the job as she has already been banished from a previous quarrel with her brother and had nothing much more to lose should she be caught. To prevent Balthor, who was hoping to do the job himself, from interfering, she knocks the dwarf out. Jessica attempts to pilfer the Mirari enhanced sword, but is caught by Kamal himself, who attacks her on the spot. As the 2 are fighting, Kamal gets word that Balthor had been killed, and Jessica was the one who had slain him. This enrages Kamal, who fatally strikes his sister. Not a moment later, Balthor himself arrives to inform the village that news of his death were greatly exaggerated, and that he was indeed just fine. This update on Balthor's status is sobering to Kamal, who realizes the tragic mistake he had just made out of rage. But then, Cabal troops arrive and attack the village. Those loyal and against Kamal's rule unite and rally against the invading Cabalists, while the mad barbarian grieves over his sister's body, his Mirari sword discarded off to the side. The Cabal attack is successfully repelled, and the tribes of the Partick Mountains agree to set aside their differences to defend against the Cabal and Order invaders. Shortly after the attack, Jessica comes to. She's alive, but just barely. Surprised and with a newfound resolve, Kamal decides to take her to the Croson Forest and to his friend, the centaur Seaton, to assist in her recovery. Balthor accompanies them and carries Kamal's Mirari sword, despite the barbarian swearing to never again wield the weapon. The trio's exodus from the mountains does not go unnoticed, as Cabal and Order forces alike, both aided by Laquadus' magic, close in on the party as they reach the forest's edge. The ambassador and his Cabal-gifted champion engage them, but Balthor holds them back, allowing Kamal time to venture into the forest to seek Seaton's aid. Despite Laquadus' champion being highly durable, Balthor unleashes an attack so powerful that it destroys both the minion and the dwarf. Enraged by the loss of his champion, Laquatus reaches out to his own army, only to discover that they have been either hunted down by Lawan's army or have deserted him, considering his rule to be tyrannical. Now without a troop to command, he flees back to the Cabal and Order camps. There he manages to form a paper-thin alliance to go after the barbarian. In the forest, Kamal reunites with Seaton. Upon seeing Jessica, the centaur confirms that her situation is indeed dire. While he tends to her, he sends the barbarian deeper into the forest to consult with an enlightened Nantuko named Thriss. Kamal finds the druid, who gives the barbarian great assistance in not only controlling his own strengths and urges, but also in better communicating with nature. He also tells Kamal the Mirari's origin, saying, quote, "I have been observing the orb since Chainer discovered it. It is of this world, but comes from beyond this world. It seeks knowledge, not power, for it has no need of power. It is alive, but has no thought, no purpose beyond the search for knowledge." In the meantime, the joint contingent of Order and Cabal troops have been having a difficult time traversing the Croson Forest. They're being harassed by the Nantuko natives, and there is an aura of mistrust between the two groups that is causing more and more of a tear in their flimsy alliance. Back at the Order's camp, an unknown assailant attacks and kills its leader. Blame is immediately placed on the Cabal. Laquatus tries to keep the two factions allied, but the Cabal wants no part of his games anymore and departs. Afterwards, Isha, Braids, and a few representatives of Lawan's Mur Empire have a conference at the attacked Order camp. They figure out that Laquatus was plotting against everyone the entire time. All parties involved agree to abandon the former Mur ambassador's quest to retrieve the Mirari. Laquatus gets word of his abandonment, and, along with the few troops that are still loyal to him, venture into the forest to claim it for their own. Thriss, the Nantuko druid who is tutoring Kamal, informs him that Laquatus is approaching Seaton's home, where his Mirari sword is being kept. The barbarian cuts his training short and runs to defend it. He is nearly taken down by the former ambassador's troops when the unknown assailant who earlier had attacked the Order encampment arrives, dispatching them. This mysterious person turns out to be his fallen dwarven friend, Balthor, resurrected and zombified by Braids as a weapon against the former Mur ambassador. However, since Balthor fused with Laquatus' champion upon death, there is part of him that is still loyal to Laquatus. The former ambassador recognizes this, and he orders zombie Balthor to attack Kamal, which he does. The shock of this causes Kamal to kill his zombified friend and former mentor, causing the barbarian to break out in tears. Laquatus mocks Kamal for being weak and weeping for his late comrade. Kamal responds by running the former ambassador through with his sword, pinning him to the ground. He then uses the Mirari to finally end the merman. Thanks to the barbarian's druidic training, however, he no longer sees visions of battle and destruction. Rather, he sees visions of growth, peace, and prosperity. Out of Laquatus' corpse grow flowers and grass as the Croson forest is rejuvenated. With the forest's rebirth comes confidence in Kamal that no one will again come for the Mirari, as it is now protected forever by the forest it has helped revive. Thus ends the story of the Odyssey cycle, though not necessarily that of the Mirari. But that is a tale for another video, as there's still plenty to tell about Judgment as a set in this one.
I've got so much more to tell you.
Whereas its predecessor, Torment, was a decidedly black-heavy set, Judgment went on a heavy green and white. In fact, the set only has 16 black cards in total, along with 27 each for red and blue. Green and white each have 33 apiece. All 4 of the set's multicolored cards, as well as all 3 of its non-basic lands, are also green-white. This was done in part to balance the colors across the block's 3 sets. Judgment is also considered to be the most often misspelled set in all of Magic, and that's largely due to the word judgment being one of the most often misspelled words in the English language.
No. There's no E.
Okay, technically it does have an E, but it doesn't have 2 E's. Yes, this is what taught me how to spell the word judgment. Judgment. No E there. That seems like it wants to be there.
Judgment continued to evolve the threshold and flashback mechanics that were introduced in Odyssey, as well as the unnamed nightmare mechanic from Torment. The Torment mechanic Madness, however, would not see use in a single card in the set, as it fits neither Judgment's theme nor story. The set features 3 cycles, with Incarnations, which are creatures with static abilities that are active so long as they are in the graveyard, 1-drop sacrificial creatures, and Wishes. Wishes were spells that were inspired by the Arabian Nights card Ring of Maruf. They allow players to add a card to their hand from outside of the game. For organized play, that would be the sideboard. Cunning Wish, Living Wish, and Burning Wish are considered to be the most powerful and useful of the 5, with the latter being deemed so cheap and powerful that it was full-on banned from vintage play from January 2004 through September of 2012.
The Wishes went on to be mega popular. I mean, Cunning Wish and Burning Wish and Living Wish are all really, really strong. And so they saw tons of play. In fact, they still see tons of play in formats they're allowed to be played in, because they are quite potent. The flexibility they give you is very big.
There were also a couple of vertical cycles. Blue got 2 sets of common, uncommon, rare cycles of Nightmares called Wormfang that have enter the battlefield and leave the battlefield abilities. Red received the Gorger cycle, which had a similar setup to Blue's Wormfangs, the most famous of which is World Gorger Dragon. A popular yet janky combo at the time was to discard the dragon to the graveyard and reanimate it using the enchantment Animate Dead. The result would be an infinite loop of ETB, LTB effects that would provide infinite mana for use in an instant speed X burn spell such as Gitu Fire or Volcanic Geyser to break the chain and get the win.
Good luck with that.
Judgment also completed 2 mega cycles that were assembled across the Odyssey Block's 3 sets.
That's a lot of nuts!
The first was a cycle of tapping Lords. Each costs 3 of the same color mana and provides an effect by tapping other creatures of the same subtype. Odyssey had Master Apothecary for clerics, Patron Wizard for wizards, and Seaton, Croson Protector for druids. Torment had Zombie Trailblazer for zombies, and Judgment has Dwarven Bloodboiler for dwarves. The other cycle is a series of alternate win cards. Odyssey brought with it Battle of Wits, which is concerned with deck size, and Chance Encounter, which deals in coin flips. Torment's Mortal Kombat is all about the number of creatures in your graveyard. Judgment introduced the cards Epic Struggle, which cares about the number of creatures you have, and Test of Endurance, which is all about your life total.
I'm gonna win this, baby!
The set also introduced 2 new creature types to the game, Incarnation and Gorgon. Overall, Judgment did not have too many cards that made too much of an impact on the tournament scene outside of Burning Wish, Cunning Wish, Living Wish, and Cabal Therapy, which is a Go Fish type of repeatable discard. There were a handful, however, that did find their way into people's decks, such as Phantom Neshoba, Hunting Ground, Balthor the Defiled, which is Magic the Gathering's only minion lord, World Gorger Dragon, Mirari's Wake, and Seed Time, which is a green situational time walk.
That exists? Oh boy.
There are also 2 specific green cards that are worth their own mention. One is Sylvan Safekeeper, a 1/1 1-drop that grants a target creature Shroud until end of turn. But that's not why it's noteworthy. The card is the one for which Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer Ollie Rod is responsible for, and bears a likeness of him for winning the 1996-97 Magic Invitational Tournament, though he didn't take the opportunity to create his own Magic card seriously at first. In fact, it took the creation of cards from future Magic Invitational winners for him to finally submit a serious card for inclusion in a set.
I was a little sad that he didn't really care about it. And then the next year, Darwin Castle won, and Darwin was very excited and handed me the card the second he won, and that turned into Avalanche Riders and became very popular. And then Mike Long won, and he got Rootwater Thief. And then Chris Bakula won, and he made Meddling Mage. John Finkel won, and he made Shadow Mage Infiltrator. Anyway, Ula saw all these cards getting made. So one of the Pro Tours, Ula comes up to me. He said, Mark, I didn't realize, when I won the prize, I didn't understand it. Now that I've seen it happen, I really would like my prize. Could I have my prize? And so we made Sylvan Safekeeper.
The other card is Urnam Jinn, a popular and fairly strong creature from the set Arabian Nights. Like with Singer Vampire and Torment, the card was brought back in large part due to nostalgia and its perceived popularity. And just like with Sanger Vampire, the reprint did not hit nearly as hard as Wizards of the Coast was expecting.
Urnum Jin in its day was a good card. It wasn't anymore. It wasn't very powerful at the time. It's funny. One of the things we sold, if you go look at the Judgment ads, they highlight that Urnum Jin is back and they highlight the wishes. Now, the wishes make a lot of sense. Wishes were splashing pretty cool. But Urnum Jin is like, hey, guys, you know how Magic is new and different and we do crazy new things? Well, guess what? We also brought this card back, you know.
There is also a specific white card that deserves a special mention. That would be Glory, the set's pre-release card. As with the 5 sets before it, and for the very last time ever, the pre-release version of the card was printed not in English, but in a language not yet seen on a Magic the Gathering card. This time around, the card was printed in Hebrew.
L'chaim, bitches!
So is Judgment among your favorite Magic the Gathering sets? If so, let us know in the comment section below. And please subscribe to Magic Untapped's YouTube channel and show us some support on Patreon for more great Magic the Gathering content.